The greatest thing from Quebec since Celine Dion and GSP.
A pair of siblings.
A couple of stellar young men.
Two brothers.
These two young men.
Two siblings.
The hard-hitting pair represent Canada.
Welcome to Thinking Bros. My name is Chris.
And I'm Alex.
We're your favorite corner store philosophers trying to figure out life one conundrum at a time. And today, I just realized that realize wasn't just the same word 3 times in a row.
No,
So I'm
there's
still
no way.
I'm still a little bit recovering from that. So I might, be shell shocked, as some might say. But today we're going to be discussing Heidi Grant Halvorson's "Succeed." I came prepared this time in the main segment, and in the opening segment, we're going to be discussing a short story by the name of Harrison Bergeron. Now, when I found the website with the PDF of it, I don't know if you clicked on the same thing as me, because I sent you like a pure text format kind of thing.
Sure, yeah.
And then if you want to get the PDF, because I wanted to print it, I didn't, but whatever. In the same document, when you do click on the PDF, there are multiplication tables with an assignment. So I think it was from the website of a homework of like 6th grader or something like that. So basically it's a story assigned to a 6th grader. And I think I read it when I was 18 at school. So anyway, I think it's a story they assigned to children, but you wanna give them the rundown as you so masterfully do?
Sure. From what I remember, I don't know if I'm gonna miss important details, but this is a world in 81? What was it?
Something like that. 84?
Something like that, where everyone is equal, but not everyone is equal in the eyes of the law or God, in the sense that everyone has equal rights. Everyone is equal as enforced by the government. So everyone has equal abilities, equal intelligence.
So it's a satirical version of, hey guys, let's try for equality.
A utopian
Dystopia.
equality of yeah, I guess for
But
sure
like,
a dystopia for everyone.
I get why you're saying utopia, in the sense that, like, yeah, if you were solely focused on equality, you might think this is a utopia, but then it reveals itself to be a dystopia, something like that.
Right. Yeah. It's those people's utopia, which is definitely a dystopia.
But it's not subtle in the way that I said it. Like, it's not subtle at all.
Well, and the way everyone is made equal is by giving handicaps to the people that are above average, because no one can be above average. And so if you're strong, we tie something around your neck and put weights on you so that you're slower and held back and not above everyone else.
So someone is naturally able, like the bigger their handicap sack is, that's how you know.
Yeah. There was a scene describing ballerinas, and all the well, it's so funny. We're going to talk about it, but the way it's described is they were dancing well. Well, not well, like better than anyone else, just as well as anyone would. and then they identify like one ballerina that is probably very beautiful and is probably very strong, because she has a very ugly mask on her face, which is how they're made all equal. If you're beautiful, you put a mask on that's ugly. And she was carrying the handicaps around her neck that a 300-pound man usually would. So yeah, and if you were too smart, the way they would solve that is that periodically, about every 5 to 10 seconds, you get a random, or maybe not random, noise in your ear that just disrupts your thoughts completely, and it seems painful every time. Yeah.
Yeah, sure. I
and the
wanted an
story,
overview
go
of the story itself. Yeah.
Well, the story is short. It focuses on one couple.
That's
say.
why it's a short story. Okay. Sorry.
Yeah. It's cool.
I
How that
apologize.
Works, right?
Keep
it's
going.
Cool how that works.
Yeah, I've already learned 2 things today, so that's awesome.
I don't remember the name of the parents, but the couple we're focusing on were in their living room. They're looking at a TV, and we're seeing how their interactions go. The mother doesn't have any handicap, I think. So I think she's,
naturally average.
Yeah, naturally average. And the father was quite a bit smarter than the average, and so he has a handicap in his ear that keeps playing a noise. And he seems to have some recurring thoughts that pop up, but as soon as he has them, he hears a noise and everything gets disrupted. And at the beginning of the story, we hear that their son, Harrison Bergeron, which is the name of the story, was taken away by the government. I don't remember the specifics of why they said at the beginning he was taken away.
I think he was just of an incredible natural ability, and it was time to like put the handicaps on.
Okay, he was basically in prison. Oh, it was time to put the handicaps on. I think he must have had them before.
It may be. It doesn't matter.
Maybe disrupting the rule of the government, or they had suspicion that he was planning to, and he got taken away.
No. He was outgrowing his handicaps too fast. He was 15, and every year they had to like put 20 more pounds on him, and like
he was 7 foot tall, right?
Yeah. We'll get to that, but
yeah. And well, their son got taken away, and what you might expect is grieving parents, but they both seem to forget. Well, yeah, I guess the mother couldn't have been average in our sense of the word, because average in our sense of the word is 100 IQ, and 100 IQ people remember when their son were taken away.
But she can't possibly be average, because if everyone wants to be equal, you take the lowest of the society, right? The weakest link. And
that was one of the things I was going to say.
Yeah.
You must take the lowest.
Of course. And they act as such as well, right?
They act as such. Yeah. The mother literally just independently of any handicap just forgot that her son got taken away. So she must have been like intellectually deficient to an extreme. And the father sort of remembered, but always the noise coming back and disrupting his thoughts. And eventually, he just stopped thinking about it. And on the TV, their watching of the ballerina is interrupted by Harrison Bergeron, their son.
Why do you say Harrison? It's Harrison.
Harrison Bergeron interrupting the ballerina program and bursting onto that scene. And he starts talking to the TV. He rips off his handicaps. He dances with the ballerina.
And it's really like an incredible Hulk scene. It's not, it's not a super genius at 7 feet tall that escape. He really rips it off, rips the handicaps off. Everyone seems scared. You could almost imagine him like, groaning like a beast, and it wouldn't change anything to the scene, right? Like he really seems like a monster. And didn't she get that feeling? Now,
what feeling exactly? Like what?
The feeling that he really acts like a conqueror, like Genghis Khan, who just dropped off in a small village, and he's like, okay, I'm the boss now.
Right. Being in that story, you're sort of course, against the government and against all these rules. But then he also seems pretty evil.
He didn't seem evil, but that's the thing. I think the imagery was masterfully manipulated to make you feel the thing that the citizens would feel, right? Like all these 80 IQ people, they meet this 130 IQ, 7 foot tall person. You would be scared. You would think, oh my God, is he going to attack us? But then the way he treats the ballerinas, sure, it's like one would say toxic masculinity type, where he's like, who wants to be my queen? Take off your handicaps and come with me. Like, a little bit Genghis Khan-y.
Yeah.
But ultimately, he doesn't hurt anyone. He just said, and then, tells the singers, like, yo, take these off and actually play some music for him.
Yeah. Well, you get it. I was going to say, you get the taste that he's evil in the sense that he's not acting morally as we would expect now, but having gone through what he's gone through, where would he have gotten the idea that, like, what I would have wanted him to do is say, okay, let's start a revolution. I can do this independently. We'll build democracy. Like, let's take off our handicaps and slowly, everyone's below average. Let's take off everyone's handicaps. The people that still have handicaps can't defeat us because we're stronger and we're smarter. Let's slowly just build back up. But I mean, he's been handicapped like that from his birth. So I guess it's understandable what he did. But
yeah, it's a natural response. And it does seem like, I like to say this, I don't know why. The final, actually because of Attack on Titan, but the final groan of a like dying beast, right? It's almost like he knows the handicapper general. By the way, funny. Handicapper general is the kind of bureau, and it's with a woman sitting at its head, and essentially she's like in charge of all these handicaps.
It's funny that she goes there herself.
Yeah.
Like, the cases must be so rare of people breaking out that she can, like, the boss of everything can just go herself on the scene.
If somebody was going to be the problem, it was going to be Harrison. But yeah, essentially, it feels like he's getting his 11 seconds of glory on TV, and he knows it's almost like he knows what's coming, right? He's like doing all the last pitch or ditch efforts to just
put that in the
if you had 20 seconds left to your life, that's probably what you would do. You'd be like, all right, the most beautiful woman, take off your handicap and come with me. Musicians, take off all your handicaps and play music for me. We're gonna dance. Like, he starts dancing as the most wanted man in that village, right? Well, I say village, it's probably city or whatever.
Yeah, and he sort of teaches them how to play their instruments, right? He like directs them because they start playing, and then he goes and takes off all their handicaps, and at the beginning it's shaky, but then he teaches them how to do it, and they do it. So they must be horrible.
Yeah, but then when they go through the phase of taking all the handicaps and then getting taught how to play, it seems as though, according to the description, it's actually good.
Yeah,
right?
It's better. I mean, at least it's better. But you must imagine that, as we said, when you have to adjust so that everyone is equal, inevitably you have to take the lowest person if you can't enhance people's abilities, the lowest person, and get everyone back intellectually and physically to the lowest person.
Yeah. So it would be an orchestra of me playing the violin. Like,
yeah, exactly.
I don't want to imagine that.
And then when Harrison Bergeron teaches them, it's an orchestra of me playing the violin, which is still really bad, but like better.
That's
probably.
Why would you be better though? I don't get it.
Yeah, let's say piano.
Okay, that's fair because you've done it.
Sure, I mean, sure.
Why would you be better at the violin than me?
Musical intuition.
But okay. You know what? That's fair. That's fair.
Like, I can hear when a note is wrong. You can't hear it all.
Fair, but then like, you wouldn't know how to adjust for it.
Yeah, exactly.
Right, you wouldn't even know how to correct it. Okay, is that it? Okay, and then obviously HQ, well, Handicapper General arrives. She's got a shotgun. Harrison dies.
Yeah.
Now, man, the way it ends is just heartbreaking, really. Like, I put this in my notes.
Mm-hmm.
It's a 7-page story, but it was genuinely hard to read for me because I had empathy, and I'm gonna get to why that is later. But
you should really like say why you have empathy, because this is really weird.
Yeah, I know. It's a doozy. And at the end, they watch the scene on the TV of their son dying, right? The dad starts crying, blah, blah, blah. Then this noise, shriek or whatever, interrupts his thoughts. He forgets it, forgets everything he just saw, but he still has this like physiological feeling of, okay, I was just sad, right? I was just crying about something. What was it? And then he asks the mom, I'm guessing, or the opposite, whatever. And she says, I don't know. I don't remember. So we were watching something sad on the TV.
Mm-hmm.
And then, again, I forgot who says it, but I think the mom does. I could tell this one was a doozy. Like, she has this, this feeling that something bad just happened, and everything indicates it. She has an intuition that on the TV something was sad. She sees the husband crying, but both don't know why. And then they kind of just get over it. And this one was a doozy is then repeated. She could tell. That's pretty much it, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Now, all right, let's get straight to the cancelable material. When at the beginning, when they start watching the TV, the story of Harrison Bergeron escaping is said by an announcer. Now, the way it's described and the way the mom empathizes is so funny, and it's a perfect example of what a satire is. Now that I think about it, if you want to get into into Animal Farm, right? As a kid, like, I don't know, 16-year-old, when you're 15, you should be introduced to this as a prototypical satire, because it really takes elements of real life and just exaggerates them masterfully. And the mother empathizes with the teleprompter guy, right? Is that a thing? No, teleprompter is the things they read, right?
Yeah,
announcer.
Yeah, TV announcer.
Yeah. And I think the dad is thinking about this. So he sees the announcer go on, and as all announcers, he has a speech impediment, obviously. And then so he tries to make something out. He's like, Harrison, Bird, and then whatever, he can't say it. So he passes off the script to the ballerina. So she reads the script, and then the mom says, well, it's fine. He tried his best. Can you really ask more of him? Right. And you're like, okay, first of all, it's extremely funny because obviously if someone were to empathize with such a situation, such a ridiculous situation, it would be a woman. And the second thing is, it takes he tried his best and kind of shows it when we say it in situations where it's really not that applicable. And it actually relates a little bit to the second part of our conversation. Because in goal setting, which Succeed is mainly about, when you set a non-specific goal for yourself, you can always, at any point, so I want to get healthier, right? I wake up, I eat an apple, whatever happens for the rest of the day, I can say good enough, right? If you don't have a specific goal set, you can always say, I did something towards it, right? That's counts for something. And if I were to judge situations where we use good enough and we shouldn't, it would be that kind of thing, right? Like a teleprompter passing off his script to the ballerina. Well, okay, again, this is satirical, but in real life, it still happens where someone should be doing something like they should, and they don't. And then some people just empathize for the sake of empathy.
Yeah, but what's specific? I feel like good and like, oh, that was good enough doesn't happen that often in my life. Like what?
Again, I think I'm thinking about largely intuitions, but I feel like you could imagine such a situation, or on the TV, people defending some failure that shouldn't have happened.
The thing I would think of first when you say good enough is about kids, and for kids, it's often appropriate to say that's good enough because their abilities are limited, and if they're trying their best, then they develop, and that's good.
I'm really thinking about Twitter wars, where a celebrity does something bad, and people, empathize for the sake of, virtue signaling. When instead it's like, no, guys, he shouldn't have done that, right? And so this announcer story made me think about fat models, where it's like, well, I don't know, if you see the parallel, you see it, right? Like, okay, this person's job will be to announce things. Therefore, maybe let's not get a speech impediment. It's the same thing. Like, this is a display of beauty. And, I mean, idealistically health. But idealistically.
I guess, but it's not the same thing in the sense that the model, we're trying to redefine what beauty is. Well, people are trying to redefine what beauty is, right? They're not saying in the story. They're not saying that TV announcer is good, right?
No, but good enough and trying his best, and that's what happens, right? Like
no, but for the models, they're saying
this is the new standard of beauty.
This is what is good.
I know, but it's funny. And look, let's go back to the Dave quote: "Truth is madder than fiction," right? And look, I thought about this quote because my epistemology prof was talking about how often in stories they have to tone down the craziness people get up to, because if you fully reported what happens in reality with people and how rationally they act, people would say you're a bad writer because there's no way. So again, like obviously you have to think about kind of extreme examples, but people act, irrationally all the time. And what I'm saying is, it almost seems like reality is now a satire of Harrison Bergeron if we're talking about fat models, because it's not just, hey, we all come in different shapes and size. Like that argument could potentially even be made, right? We come in all different shapes and sizes. Everyone's struggles are different. Let's try to say, okay, these standards of beauty are good enough. Like, when they did the thing where the whole, 8-pack with men was going around and men's standards, blah, blah, blah. And then they introduced dad bods like, hey, this is the average man's body. This is good enough. Right? And you're thinking about that like, okay, he drinks beers on the weekends. He tries to work out, but only can play football with his buddies twice a week. Like, whatever. Now, it's 300-pound models. And they're throwing it in your face and saying, okay, this is beauty now. So it almost seems like that's the satire of Harrison Bergeron, is what I'm saying. Like
Harrison.
Yeah, I said it because I was infected. That's goal. What is it? Not infection, but what do you call it?
Contagion.
Yeah, goal contagion. So we go from, okay, let's try to act perfectly, which, you know, if you had to think about the 1960s and the dad just wearing a suit and tie and coming back home and telling his kids not to start eating before they can pray, and then elbows off the table, like all these respect things. Like, okay, if you take that perfection, then it kind of starts devolving, probably social media, but whatever. And you see this Harrison Bergeron just taking it to the extreme. Like, hey, imagine if teleprompters or whoever these guys are had a speech impediment and we normalized it and everyone said it was good enough. And now you take the opposite. You take, this is the new ideal of teleprompters. Because everyone has different understanding abilities, we're going to take the dumbest guy to explain it, and it's going to be so simple that you can't miss it. Something like that.
Yeah, I mean, just throughout the whole story, it's just the human element. There's such beauty in human difference and different people excelling in different things, and also just some people being way above average. Like, that's so beautiful and so impressive that to take that away for some ideal of everyone feeling worthy, I don't know, it's just not how it works. It would be a horrible situation, as is explained in the story. Like, do I feel,
well, as is depicted by the story, right? Because if it were explained, it has to have some subtlety. And you remember when the dad was really, really tired and the wife suggested, do you want to take off a little bit of your whatever sack, a handicap sack? And the dad was like, well, if everyone went and did that, we'd all go back to the horrible thing where there's the dark ages where they were. So it's important to know that they were brainwashed, and for them it is a utopia, even though the dad is like screaming, well, in pain every 15 seconds because he's too smart.
I can definitely imagine how like the dad got indoctrinated in that, and it seems like a worthwhile ideal to strive for, sort of, until you like think about it a little bit. But if you were indoctrinated to it from birth and you have no exposition to any other idea, and if they're not given the IQ space to have those thoughts, then it's definitely hard. But I was gonna say, like, do I feel bad that I'm not as good at soccer as Messi? Like, a little bit, but the truth is, first of all, the part that's unfair is the talent. Like, he certainly had more talent than me, independently of any hard work. And second, he put in more work. He deserves what he has and the skill he has, and the money he gets. Well, that's debatable to what extent they deserve the money, but
I mean, they bring in that money in entertainment, even more for FIFA, and then they get paid that. I mean,
yeah. But I'm just saying the amount. Like, sports.
Well, if you're that exceptional and people around the world know your name, at some point, yeah.
Yeah, if there's one person I would think deserves the money, it's Messi. I'm not going to trash talk it.
Anyway, and I think that's the most beautiful thing, right? The fact that, I mean, not really. What I'm about to say, you can definitely debate it, but the only thing that separates you from them, in a hypothetical sense, is the effort. And what I mean by that is that until you've put in the same hours of work as Messi, you don't even know if you could be the next Messi. That's the reality of it, right?
And I don't really have a claim to the unfairness claim. Like, I can't say it's unfair.
Exactly.
Because factually, by the time he was 20 as I am, he had put in much, much more work than I have in soccer. And so,
exactly,
like, you can say oh, he got lucky because of this, this, this. But I think if people are honest with themselves, if you had put in as many hours as Kobe did in basketball, okay, maybe you wouldn't be Kobe, but maybe you would. You don't know.
Yeah.
That's the point. And you would definitely be very good.
Exactly. And there's this figure in a specific video game. I'm not gonna name names, but essentially a video game I had interest in. And he was averaging like 10 times the viewers of others. His popularity was spreading across video games. In the gaming world, he was the faker of League of Legends. Whoever knows what that means.
I hope you don't.
I really hope you don't. And he had a public profile on the game engine that I'm really trying to explain in like universal terms.
Censoring it.
On the gaming engine that he played the game. And he was 20 years old. And I went and saw his hours that he had on the game and divided it by the number of days that were between when he was 20, the present, and when he was 15. And essentially he was averaging 7 hours a day from the day he was 15 to the present.
Yeah.
7 hours a day.
Yeah.
And so when people, were watching him play these video games, everyone was saying like, oh, he has inhuman reactions, his, micro adjustments, whatever, technical terms are incredible. But the guy essentially forged this. Mm-hmm. And I could literally be that if again, hypothetically. So it's not like, the element of hard work isn't necessarily exploited in this story. Harrison Bergeron is just like this beast of a man that grew up to be 7 feet tall and didn't outgrew his handicaps.
At the same time, it's the perfect example of progressive overload.
Yeah.
Like they're training him.
Oh, right. The handicaps themselves are making him.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's in a growth stage, so you would expect him to adapt rapidly. Unless you have something to say, I'm going to get to my big point.
Okay.
And it's that I have empathy for them, and I ask myself, why is that? Like, in 7 pages, I'm thinking about this dad getting distracted and trying to empathize with his son, but just literally being immune to sadness because of these distractions. And smart people being hurt by society. And I realized that it's because I saw so many parallels with real life that I empathize with them. Mm-hmm. First of all, our discussion of school was 2 episodes ago. Mm. That's what kind of they do to genius children, right? You put them in a class with people who are average and you make them lose their thing.
Yeah, but it's not... it's government mandated, sort of. It's not government enforced. You can get tested by a psychologist or a psychiatrist and get, I don't know, the genius mark, and then get put in a grade above, or
Sure, but again, if you're indoctrinated into that from the very beginning and you have the potential, then you'll never have the chance to even get ahead if you're always put with the average.
Yeah, you have a chance if you take the steps. If you mean if you're indoctrinated from the start, you won't get a chance?
Yeah, well, what I'm saying is the design of the environment here is very important because it's children we're talking about, right? Like you and I can say, if I wanted to become the next Messi, I could just take a ball and kind of, I don't know, sacrifice half of my sleeping hours and whatever, right? I could design these things, but if you're putting children into an environment that is godless in the Neil Postman sense, I don't know why I say postman, but then what you're gonna get as a person with no drive, who even with the potential to become a genius, is always just gonna do just enough to do the average. Now, am I referring to myself in high school? No, obviously not. I'm not a genius. But yeah.
So, wait, what are you saying with the, if we wanted to become Messi, you could take a ball and sacrifice half your sleeping hours?
What I'm saying is just, you said it's not government kind of mandated, right, enforced, but it's government designed in the sense that no one's going to go and pick you out and say, look, you're above average. Like, all the profs are going to do is see, okay, this guy's getting 95%. I cannot worry about him and try to worry about the lower people.
Yeah,
now,
but don't you think, like, the thing there, it's enforced in the true sense of the word, but I think all people are trying to do is do their best. Like, it goes from
100% is why I'm saying that it's designed this way. You know, we were talking about this, why some teachers suck, and it's because no one wants to teach because it's not paid enough and it's a horrible job, and they just take some people.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is, like, the government is trying to do their best, then a level lower, whatever school board is trying to do their best. That was a you moment. Then a level lower, the teachers are trying to do their best or not, you know? And it's just like the addition of, I don't know, humans being a little bit lazy, because it could happen at any level. It could happen at the teacher level where the teacher sees, oh, this person's getting like really good grades in my class. I should watch out. It would be, I don't know, depriving society of something. They have the influence to put that person on a different life path if they just say to, I don't know, the school psychologist, oh, you should test him for like genius IQ level, or at least we should talk to him about skipping a grade because he could go faster. So why?
So you are agreeing with me partially, and all I'm saying is, and it's almost like, well, it's not almost. It's as if the satire did its job, right? What I'm saying is, if you take the 100% as being the Harrison Bergeron story,
okay,
what is happening right now is 10 or 15, but it's still a problem, and now we've seen it, and it's been highlighted by the fact that it's been exaggerated here.
I mean, sure, it's a problem that. But what's the problem? You're saying like this is the way it's designed.
Yeah, but
whatever.
you're saying,
I'm saying a teacher could just pick you out and say, "Look, this person's smart. This is possible in our society." The fact that it's not done is the fault of the teachers, sort of. But at the same time, they have a class of 30. Blah, blah, blah.
Again, my focus is not on a teacher, and I don't want to get conspiracy theory on you and say it's the government and whatnot. But again, there are faults at each level. We can agree on that,
sure.
And the weakest version of that is just personal laziness and, you know, going through the motions, right? Like, the teachers, ultimately, all they have to prepare you for is the government exams. Otherwise, no one's going to notice that they're doing their job badly. As long as they do that, it doesn't matter if they're a horrible teacher, right? So, the most optimistic version of that is to say that these people, just as any other field, some people are going through the motions and doing their job, you know, lazily. And that's the optimist version. So that's all I'm going to say. Now, the other thing is the parallel between the sounds playing in the dad's head and short form content, right? Now, I thought about this with the music playing constantly in your ear and podcasts and TikTok and whatnot. These sounds that are playing, like, it's almost like people are putting on the handicap sax.
Exactly. And I was going to say, like, it's even worse because it's not the government mandating.
Truth is madder than fiction. And it is. It genuinely is. And
for those wondering, he's saying matter, DDER, not matter.
Right. And my last note here is forget sad things. And it's because by the end, I don't know if it's said explicitly, but essentially what happens is their son dies on the TV. And they just get over it in 20 seconds because the mom is too dumb and the dad is having these police sirens play in his head, right? And what you realize is that, to a lesser extent, of course, that's what happens. You just, whatever, it turns to TikTok. And my motivation prof, the book that we read for this time is an assignment of that class. He was talking about how pattern interrupts are so addictive and induce this orientation reflex where as soon as a scene changes in a movie, you're kind of conditioned to pay attention to, like, okay, what's going to happen next? Because evolutionarily, if there's something shaking in the bushes, it's either a leopard that's going to eat you or a potential for collaboration with a person. So it's very important.
Or a bunny.
Or a bunny to eat. So evolutionarily, we're conditioned. Well, so TV exploits that, short form exploits that. And he said this example, and it struck me. If you were watching TV and someone just told you that, you know, came up, told you that their cat died. When the scene changes in your peripheral vision, you could imagine that you just turn to the TV, wouldn't you? Like when he said that, I just instantly imagined it of like someone giving me horrible stories, and I'm involved, and there's this like cliffhanger by the end of the episode, and I really have to just see the scene, and I turn to the TV, and when you think about the humanity of such an act, there ain't none.
Yeah. But I was thinking, like, what are the long-term consequences of specifically forgetting sad things, right? Because in the story, they see their son dying, and then they instantly forget it.
Yeah.
I think the long-term consequences, I mean, in some way, are less bad for them, because I think they see it briefly. It's like in their perceptual memory, but then it doesn't really get encoded into their brain, and they just instantly forget it. And it's that their whole life, and it's never going to stop. So there's no, like, it gets into your unconscious. You just feel horrible all the time. You just don't get anything. For us, people, go through sad things. And then, I mean, it's horrible how teenagers and young adults, I feel like the advice you get when, like, someone just broke up with their boyfriend or their girlfriend of many years is like, go party, go forget it instantly, right? That's
100%.
The reaction.
100%. Distract yourself, right?
But for us,
don't internalize it.
It doesn't work like in the story. It's not like we're gonna actually forget it, like never have it in our brain.
Oh, yeah.
It's there in our brain. We feel horrible about it. We put layers on top of it. And then it's Freud style in your unconscious will come up at some point.
100%.
When your phone dies and you have to walk home for 30 minutes.
It's the frozen mammoth you're gonna discover in 10 minutes, in 10 years or whatever, like within the iceberg, buried deep in your unconscious. And 100%. And you asked what are the long-term consequences of forgetting sad things, and it's a loss of humanity and apathy. And as you can see, right, with the modern youth, we were talking about what's the new generation, Gen Z, after that, Gen Y, Gen Alpha,
Too many letters.
Generation Alpha, whatever. You know how with the loss of religion and family values, whatever, there's just a loss of humanity where these kids are experiencing their loss of childhood earlier and earlier, right? And we see this, like, these 15-year-olds, we've interacted them at summer camp and whatnot. They just know things they absolutely shouldn't, and obviously internet, blah blah blah. And the dark humor levels they've gotten to already, is so far. And to you and I, we understand that dark humor is funny because of how horrible it is. For them, it's just not horrible. That's the thing. Like, TikTok. TikTok I'm probably gonna blur this, but like TikTok had these videos going around with around like terrorist attack times, and people were, you're riding in a bus and there's the accident on the side of the road, and you just can't look away because you want to see the horrible thing. You want to see it.
I feel like young people meme it also. Like they're inevitably they're gonna, in the sense that like they're gonna make jokes about it, but they realize it's real, but
I don't think they realize it's real, and it's the joke that comes. No.
See what I'm saying? Like they realize it's real.
Yeah,
but
real, yes, but how horrible it is, they don't.
Yeah.
Because they've never experienced it, right? They've lived in this like cell phone life and a virtual reality.
Yeah.
Like Neil said, what does it mean to lose interest in reality? What does it mean to gain love for a virtual reality? And that's what it means. You lose humanity because when you live within this world, you don't lose your humanity. And this is where the joke of too soon came up, right? Horrible things happen. A horrible thing happens. And then the day after, people are trying to get their popularity by being the first one to post about it and make a funny joke about it. That's the competition. Like at this point, there's the war between the people trying to get on the hype train of being the first person to say something funny, and then on the other side, it's the virtue signal that it's actually really horrible and you support the victims and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's devolved into these two camps, and none of them are human. It's genuinely crazy. So
like no one just has. Well, people do, but we don't hear them. But less and less people have just a moment of silence for the loss of the families.
yeah, like a personal, non-virtue signaling, genuine sadness for life. And by the way, you said that, and that's a cognitive bias that really manipulates us, right? And it's because the vocal minorities that absolutely suck and have lost their humanity, they're going to be the ones blowing up on Twitter, right? The people who had the reaction you said, they're all invisible.
Yeah.
You know that, right? So
yeah, but I corrected myself. I said,
okay.
Yeah.
So again, the world may not even be as bad as I'm imagining it just because of that cognitive bias that is infused in me. So
yeah, I think about this sometimes. If the right
I
thing
don't.
to
I usually scroll on TikTok. I don't tend to think, but yeah.
It's good for you. Get over it.
I'm not. I'm never sad. Yeah. Okay.
What was I gonna say? Yeah, I think about this sometimes. If sometimes, as we've established now, the right thing to do is just to say nothing and to just feel the empathy you have for victims of horrible situations. If the right thing to do is to just say nothing, remain silent, and not post, then all the people that remain, I don't know, in the public eye, and all that we see always is the other people. I guess the two camps. Too often on this side, it's virtue signaling and not actually people feeling bad. And on the other side, it's instantly making jokes and feeling like really being insensitive about it. If that's all people are exposed to, that's the basis of. I don't want to make claims about sociology and how the world is going to evolve, but the basis of the basis of how what future generations see, unless you're in the family of someone who stays silent, all you see is those two sides. So you're probably going to be on one of those two sides.
100%. And if we go back to the experiment where they put four monkeys in a cage, right? At the top of a tower is a banana. And whenever monkeys start climbing up, they make a horrible sound and start spraying really cold water on them to discourage them from getting that banana, right? Then they remove one monkey and put a new monkey in. When that new monkey comes up for the banana, the other monkeys beat it up so they don't get the cold water treatment. Right? And eventually you replace monkeys, and everyone learns to pull down the monkey, but the water sprays stop. Right? And that's how you condition a society. Right? The bad stimulus doesn't even have to be there. So if you take, I hope that was clear. So if you take the humanity of the, let's say, 80s, right? And we grow up with this humanity. Just let me finish the point.
If you take humanity of the 80s, we don't know what the 80s were like, and we grew up with it. We didn't.
Well, our parents had that humanity and transferred it onto us. But whatever. Well, you'll see my point, and it doesn't have to be age specific. Well, it will be, but whatever. And you grow up with that humanity, and you see people cracking jokes. With your internal representation of what grief is, you understand that the jokes are a coping mechanism and are only a way to, or dark humor, right? Are only way to take this horrible aspect of life and turn it and show it as, we can deal with it, right? We can. It's a good coping mechanism, right? But, okay, horrible things start increasing, humanity starts decreasing, and these kids start growing up, and their internal representation of grief is essentially these memes. Right? Because the media they're scrolling on isn't really showing the real grief that you described. Like humans had between themselves, you see a person in your village walking in full black clothing, you know what's going on, you comfort them, you say, I'm sorry for whatever. I'm sorry that he died at the old ripe age of 48.
At least it was of natural causes.
Yeah, it was of natural causes, scurvy. And so that's the 60s, and they grew up with this like social media. Obviously, that's, I guess I've identified it as the main problem because that's where the humor happens. And you grow up, and grief is associated with humor. Grief is humor. then isn't every horrible thing just as an internal representation just funny now?
I see. I'm not sure about the humor part, because what's the difference then? Well, the difference is having actually lived through something hard,
or being taught what grief is or something hard is by people who have lived it. And that's all I'm saying. Like, that kind of stopped at some point in the 2000s.
Yeah. What I can see also is, well, no, never mind. Yeah,
the humor has to be on the basis that we all still agree that it's really horrible. Yeah. And with some recent events, right, even the submarine and whatnot, you saw how it happened, right?
But you would be the type of person that jokes right the day after.
Yeah, but my best defense mechanism against everything is humor. So, and it's also quite important that I don't. Right, I'd be the type of person, sure, but I'm not out there posting and trying to get fame of horrible people. No. But making these jokes to you, I mean,
yeah, I don't know. Like, what's the line? Is it just social media?
Fair, whatever. But do you see? Okay, so this was part of my larger point that I empathize when I was reading, and I was asking myself, well, these characters have been described in a few paragraphs. How do I care about them? How do I genuinely feel pain for what the father is experiencing? And it's because of all these parallels with real life right now. Because this is, I mean, I'm guessing it's an older story. So that's all.
Yeah,
that's all for me. It's all she wrote. It's all the monkey said. I'm trying to make a new thing.
Sometimes it's also great writing. I feel like a lot more and a lot of people don't get to experience things as horrible, or things that are horrible as often as they did back in the day, when I don't know, medicine was worse, poverty was worse, stuff like that. A lot of people in the West, I guess I would say, just some people don't get to experience any horrible stuff at all. So all they get ever is just exposure to the internet and these jokes. But great writing, if you hear the stories of your parents, as you said, like someone telling you, or even just in a book, we still all have that reflex. It's there, it's down there somewhere, right? You can elicit that with great writing or with something particularly personal. If you get told a story about your family, something someone in your family lived through, it hits you.
For sure. Yeah, and that's I'm guessing it's the natural empathy that is still like in our genes, and that can't necessarily be fully corrupted by teaching. But
yeah, I'm pretty happy. I was reading a case study the other day in my psychopathology class. We're seeing different disorders, and I was reading about a guy that had panic disorder. I don't know if these stories are real or not, but a guy that had panic disorder and how it like affected his life, how it made it significantly worse, and then how he went through treatment and how it improved his life. And I was like, I had a tear in my eye, because humanity, I don't know, just knowing that a person can go through that.
Interesting. In the last couple of months, I've actually felt a few emotions and
progress.
And I've realized that it's mostly about things that are very, very close to me. It's not like for the anxiety disorder. I don't think I would care genuinely. I heard David Goggins on a podcast with Andrew Huberman, pretty recent one, and he was describing how he was revising his paramedic things with his wife, and he was diagnosed ADHD and whatnot, and he was like reading a page 3 times over, and while he was telling it to his wife so that she helps him revise it, the wife had already memorized it, and he was in the paramedic thing, like he was saying that, and I was in the car, I was playing the podcast,
and you had to play it back 3 times just to understand the story.
Exactly. No, but I genuinely felt a tear coming up.
Yeah. Okay,
because he was saying it with obviously, as he does with an emotion.
Yeah.
And he was saying, nothing in my life is easy. I had to go over these pages 3 times, man. And I memorize it. Like, I can't make these associations easily. I have to read over the name of the medicine 20 times and then what it does and the quantities. Like, I go over these pages 20 times and she just hears me talking about it, so she helps me study with it, and she already knows them.
Mm-hmm.
And dude, like, yeah, I mean, the struggles, right? I felt it. So, and that's kind of the only way to touch me. Like, if you know.
Well, that's rough. Maybe you're a product of the
100%.
evolution of society.
It's very possible.
Described.
It's very
but
possible.
It's also partly personality, because we had more or less the same upbringing, but I just...
Yeah.
Yeah.
And again, the ultimate thing is also, if we do trust Aristotle, I am defined by my actions, and ultimately, when I can see that someone has experienced something bad, I'm still going to act in ways that are empathetic. It's just I'm not going to cry about it afterwards. And that's what would have potentially made me a good psychologist.
Having that reflex.
Yeah, that apathy, but also a good direction, a good desire to help out people, but the absolute apathy towards their problems, unless they're mine as well.
Okay, yeah.
In any case, you know.
Yeah.
Okay, we can try to make this short because it's much more concrete. We're already 50 minutes.
50.
Now, have we ever extracted this much information out of 7 pages? Maybe with Neil Shubhanababu.
What?
The imaginary girl guy.
Neil Shubhanababu?
We'll look it up after, but it's pretty close.
Maybe. No, I don't think it was as long as this. I just think that, I mean,
It felt longer. Maybe it's because it's philosophy and it's not a story.
Maybe. But this story was so short, and I don't know, man. You just bring up some old classics and you're like, there's no way this exists and I've never read it, and it's just like chilling there.
Right? Yeah. That's exactly how it felt in my mind, but I had read it.
I have Slaughterhouse 5.
Yeah.
Which is also by
same guy, yeah.
I'm going to reread it because I think I read it in like middle school.
And he's good, right? I don't know how
that writing was good. I'm going to reread Slaughterhouse 5 because I don't remember anything.
Okay. All right, well.
The second 10-minute segment
hopefully
is going to be about a book called Success, and I think you are better suited to introduce this.
Yeah, it's just a psychologist doing one of those psychology reviews that make it available for the masses. And there are 3 parts to the book. There's get ready, get set, go, ready, now.
Go is probably at the end.
Go is the 3rd segment. No, book.
Ready, steady, go.
Ready, steady, go. And this first is kind of ready, and it's about preparing for your goals in a way that you can succeed. Now, everything that is supported by these psychological studies and replicated and whatnot, it really feels...
Even I didn't really like it.
It really feels like if you input a chapter of William James, made the writing less interesting, input a chapter of William James's goal setting into ChatGPT, said reduce the writing to a modern writing style, and then support everything that has been confirmed by studies with studies. Right? So it's an overview of goal setting, how to get prepared so you can actually reach your goals. And but again, boring, not boring. You read about it. No, I don't think it's necessarily boring because it is an important thing for me. And the way she says it makes it very comprehensible indeed.
That's what I was going to say. Compared to James, I think James he isn't really hard to understand, but it is old writing and some sentences are complex so that you read them like 2 or 3 times. This is very easy to read and it gets the important points still. Yeah.
Yeah. Like James would write, brevity is the soul of wit.
And then you reread it like 5 times and you think about it and you churn it in your mind. And
but that's also how you internalize things, right?
Yeah.
When you read a psych study, you spit out the knowledge on whatever, the podcast, the exam, and you're like, whatever. When you are the person who came up with the conclusions, right? Like I say, brevity is the soul of wit. And you think, okay, soul of wit. Intelligence.
That's
okay.
actually not that hard to understand, but... Yeah.
It's not, but it's a good example and it's pretty beautiful. And you think, right, if I'm able to simplify complex things, And this is also the thing that they told me at school, that if I can explain a concept to someone who doesn't understand it, I certainly understand it, right? Things like that. And
and that's also the briefest way you can say that sentence.
Yeah, probably. Yeah. Wow. Yeah. I didn't see that. It's pretty cool. Okay. So here are a bunch of points for your goal setting goals, and hopefully let's get through this rapidly. Be extremely specific. Again, you can't say good enough if it's a pass or fail. Actually, pass or fail goals are pretty good. I must lose 10 pounds by the end of May, right? You're either going to succeed or you're going to fail. There's no, well, today I walked for 30 minutes instead of 25.
And especially if you know you need to lose 10 pounds, you know by this number of weeks you need to lose this number of pounds. And if you're behind, you know you're behind. You have regular updates.
Right. Checkpoints. Yeah. Big. Make it hard but realistic. So when you make an easy goal, it's just going to be boring. And obviously you're not going to achieve much. You might, it's like, I don't know, playing tennis with someone who's just beginning and you're experienced.
Yeah. And something, I guess, a little bit counterintuitive, which I've internalized because I've said it to myself so much and I've experienced it very, very much also. Is
frequently.
Frequently. That's too long a word. I need to. She says that, oh, would you expect it to, like, people to be less happy? I can't say sentences.
Be brief.
Maybe you would expect people to be less happy when they have harder tasks, but what studies find is that that's not what happens. But at this point, that seems intuitive to me. When I'm doing easy stuff and not challenging myself, I'm just miserable. So.
Right. So the people in the study specifically, people who had the best performance reports at work were the ones who also thought that their work was challenging, which is really cool.
Yeah, but I was talking about happiness, not performance reports.
Okay, well, it boosts performance as well.
Yeah.
Which is pretty cool to know, yeah. 100%. So everyone knows this. If you've ever engaged in an important goal for you that was long-term and it required effort, it's inherently rewarding. And it's not even because of the results of the goal, just knowing you've done something hard. Essentially, David Goggins' whole existence. You can get addicted to it. That's the beautiful thing as well. Tailor the why and the what thinking to the type of goal. This is a pretty good point. Mm-hmm. And I've had some personal examples right after I read that, and it made so much sense where I could have made a better decision if I had just thought about that.
So the idea is when the goal is far away.
Well, that's a later point.
Okay.
But mainly
you're
talking about the mechanical, right?
Yeah, if it's complex or not complex. Is the goal something you'll need to, I don't know, be hands-on and learn methodically, and you need to do this step and then this step and you have to actually think about it? Or is the goal relatively simple and, I don't know, what's the criteria for the why? I'm struggling to come up with.
Yeah, so why is like things you know how to do well but are kind of boring and you lack motivation. So let's say going to your job, right? It's your third year on a job. You just wake up one morning and you're like, am I going to keep going with this? And then you just have to think about the why, right? I am doing this for my children. I must remember why I'm doing this. The purpose, right?
Yeah.
And yeah, if something is, hard to learn, a new system, complex, usually you just have to think about the first step, like mechanically. Okay, what is getting an A in this class? What does it entail? Oh, opening up the screen of my laptop and starting to read the first word. I can do that.
Yeah.
Right?
If I could, another example would be if you want to eventually run a marathon. Let's say you've established the steps. It's not that hard. Let's say you run 3 times a week. Okay. You need to remember the why. It's not like you need to think about every step when you're running and do it. You just when you have a down and you don't want to run, you say, why am I doing this? And you must have a why. I think a lot of people fail if they don't have a why, because the steps are pretty simple. You know how to do it. You just have to do it, and you have to remember why you're doing it. Or if you're learning to play the piano, that's for the what. The limiting factor is going to be mechanically, like pressing this note and then this note and then this note. You don't know how to do it. Your hands are not good at it. And so even if you say, oh, I really, really want to do it, it's not like you're going to sit down and be a virtuoso and just play the piece perfectly. You just have to be in the moment at that time and say, look, what I'm going to learn today is this one line on my music sheet. That's fine. That's 10 seconds of the piece, and I'm going to learn it. And you say this and this sequence, and you put them back to back because you don't know how to do it, and you need to explain to yourself step by step how to do it.
Yeah. And you can, it always shifts from the what to the why, right? You start a new thing, it seems overwhelming, it's big, it's complex, it's new, there's a barrier between you and it. But ultimately, let's say you were starting soccer for the first time. Ultimately, you just think about the mechanics of it, right? Okay, I need to make it so the ball doesn't fall and I have to dribble it 5 times. Can I concentrate all my energy on that and do it? Yeah, sure, you can do it. But it's not like learning soccer. It's a big system. And so when you get habituated to something and it becomes easier and easier, the problem becomes kind of motivation, right? Like,
yeah,
are we really going to do this podcast again this Sunday or whatever? And you remember the why,
right.
Like, right, the greater purpose. Like, yeah, we want to develop our knowledge base, connect with our viewers, and, you know. So it's really, you shift that. And another thing is, when a goal is near, you will always think about the mechanics of it, right? If I'm telling you, hey, you want to go on a surprise trip tomorrow? Like, you had the weekend plan and whatnot, and I'm telling you, hey, I have these 2 tickets. We have to go to Calgary and watch Drake and all that. You'll think about the mechanics, right? You'll be like...
It's about feasibility.
Yeah, exactly. Feasibility. Like, man, it would involve this, and I'd have to pack up these things and actually cancel those plans.
And the solution to that is mechanical thinking, is how thinking. You say...
No, it's purpose thinking. It's like, if it's too close and you're denying yourself the experience because of the mechanical problems, you have to think about the why. Like, in a month, I will have thanked myself because I've always loved Drake and I'll have this experience and weekend away. And the opposite is true as well. Like, when you accept faraway plans that seem good for the why, because of the why bias, you're not going to think about the mechanics of it. And when it gets to it, you're like, okay, I have to do this and this thing now. Like, the mechanics get, you forget the feasibility.
For something close, you think about the how and you think about it too much.
Exactly. You're going to have biased thinking towards the how. So whenever you're accepting or denying it, think about, okay, what could be bad that I will accept close in time? Okay, what is going to be bad? Something extremely easy, right? Like, deny yourself this and instead just do a weekend where you do a TV marathon. That's going to be, your bias is going to be how easy it is and the feasibility. It's very feasible. Think about the why. Like, couldn't you enrich your weekend with something else? The same thing for denying yourself experiences in the near future because of the mechanics. I have to pack up for the trip. It's a surprise trip. But think about, in a month from now, are you going to thank yourself for that trip? And the answer is maybe yes, if it's not Drake, right? Same thing for far in the future. You might say yes to because of a why bias, you're going to say yes to a big plan or a trip and whatever. When the time comes, the money, the packing up, the canceling plans, that's where the problems begin. So again, always tailor your thinking in why or what, depending on what you want to achieve. Consider the value and feasibility. So the value is kind of the why, what is the outcome, why you're doing it, and feasibility is what you said, the mechanics. Think positive, but don't underestimate. So essentially, people who've performed the best and probably were, as a result, had better well-being and whatnot, are the people who thought a goal will be challenging, but believed in their abilities. So these are 2 separate things. You have to think that you have the ability or can develop the ability to be successful, but also the limit of positive thinking is not to just think that getting through the challenges will be easy, because every major goal that actually has value will actually have difficult challenges. And as long as you are realistic about the challenges, but optimistic about your chances of success in the goal, you're good.
Yeah, that's
big.
I relate this to therapy, like exposure therapy. When what you do in exposure therapy, let's say someone is scared of spiders. It could even be like literally me. Like, I'm a little bit afraid of spiders. I don't like them particularly.
Imagine if they like double their speed. They're walking normally. They double their speed towards you.
No, my thing is I stare at a spider. If it's close to me, I'm like, it can jump. It'll jump.
For sure, yeah,
It'll
I
jump.
feel that. But you know those flying spiders? Like,
Stop.
no, but you know about that, right?
What?
They just like, you think it's a spider, they walk with 6 legs, and they randomly
Oh.
start flying, but the small ones, they're not.
Yeah,
Never
yeah.
do.
Aren't they like ants? Some ants can
It
fly,
might be
right?
an ant. It might be. It's so scary. Okay,
Yeah, exactly. Okay.
whatever.
So whatever. What you're doing when you're exposing yourself, let's say for someone who has a spider phobia, the first step of exposure therapy would be think about a spider. And that would be like a 7 out of 10 anxiety provoking experience.
And we just did that. Did you catch that? We just did it.
But for me, it would, I guess, be like the first step would be let a spider crawl on me, like a harmless spider. And that
Okay,
would be,
you're already there. Okay.
yeah. I think I am, because I can take a spider out onto the street, but I really just don't want to touch it.
Hmm.
Like, let it crawl on me. That would be pretty stressful. What I'm doing is not like the world is not changing. The spider is still there and is still scary. What I'm doing is my ability to overcome my fears and my ability to deal with it is getting improved. And so, in the same way, you have to think about success in this way. I can do it, and it will be hard. And you just get better at dealing with stuff. For David Goggins, it's not now like the world isn't changed. Motivation, the nature of motivation isn't changed for him. A subsequent day of running and pulling up and weightlifting is still as challenging for him. It's just he has a track record. That's how he describes it. He has a cookie jar where in his hard moments he can look in the cookie jar and take a cookie out and be like, oh, in that year I had a surgery and 1 month later I ran an ultra marathon. Take that, like I can do it. It's just you get confident in your abilities to overcome the challenges that are undeniably hard.
Yeah, well, yeah, it's a track record, and it's also a cognitive technique that is prescribed to think about past successes. But I think the biggest thing is what I call in a blog the doing muscle, and it's William James's principle that essentially, and there's a study here too. I think when you practice the self-control, which is focusing on a goal and avoiding distractions and difficulties, essentially. So you practice self-control, and you did every hard task for a week with your left hand. So opened doors, drank, brushed your teeth, essentially became a lefty. Well, maybe not for writing because that's impossible, but became a lefty for a week, and it took a lot of self-control. I think the result was that essentially these students, I think, had less dishes sitting in the sink. They were doing things more rapidly.
In the book?
Yeah, it might be like
I don't remember this at all, actually.
I might be further than it may be in the class, but the class is about the book, so it like supplements it but also gives new information. But essentially there's a study where they did that, and they also did it with another thing, and it was not being lazy in speech. The self-control kind of conditioning was that for a week they had to answer in full sentences. They, instead of saying yeah and nope, they should say yes and no. Like all of these modifications of their language. Yeah. And what they said, yeah.
Yes.
And at the end, and again, it's funny, you said yes, sir, right? But that's the army. That's the whole army. Tighten up, right? Say yes, sir, no, sir. Like you have to tighten up. And that itself is self-control conditioning that is going to make you wake up at 5:30 a.m. and go run. These things are going to be easier because your muscle, the stimulus is as hard, but your muscle, your doing muscle, is much stronger. And had less dishes in the sink, were doing things more immediately than before. And I've noticed this in my life so much. Like now, the things in the washer, the dishes, it's all, I have the thought, I must do this. I do it instantly after. Okay, sometimes they lie around, whatever. But it's much less than before. And this is all due to me practicing the doing muscle, and actually, yeah. So they say about mental contrasting. I'm not buying it. I don't really get it. But you think about a challenge that is going to come up, and then you think about the end result. Challenge, end result. So you think about a mechanical problem. Well, not necessarily mechanical, but a problem that might come up in your process. And then you think about why you're doing it. And you do this mental contrasting one after the other, and it's supposed to motivate you to, to believe in yourself and that you're going to do it. know what is influencing you. Okay, so chapter 2 is mainly about the, again, iceberg of the unconscious and the power of the environment. Essentially, you might think you're, a fully conscious being and everything is your decision and whatnot, but you should imagine yourself as a complete, animal, an automaton, a hairless monkey, that the environment is interacting with your subconscious. It's guiding 80% of your actions, and then the conscious part is kind of just chilling out there and being like, yeah, I'm making decisions, woo, right? Okay, I'm exaggerating, and obviously David Goggins, maybe his conscious mind has absolutely defeated his unconscious, or maybe he's certainly set his environment up so his subconscious works for him.
Also, over the years, his ego, his conscious mind won over his subconscious, right? And slowly, the part of
he
his
didn't let the internal thoughts win. The intrusive thoughts.
He's been on TikTok too much.
Okay, but essentially, it is make your environment work for you, right? That's what it is.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I found it a little bit less interesting, but if you think about it, all these little stimuli are the people who know that you're engaged in a goal and would encourage you in pursuing it or expect a lot of you. You can use them as cues to prime yourself for goal success. And it's the same thing with these, word priming tasks, where people who had to do some word puzzles with the words like succeed, and they were consciously but beyond, under their knowledge, so unconsciously primed for words like success, persevered more on an impossible puzzle. Or, for example, when they were told, they didn't know cameras were in the room, when they were told to stop progressing on a puzzle after 2 minutes of doing it, they just kind of continued. So all these things can work for you as long as you set yourself up for success. And, your network is your net worth, as they say. So again, the people that surround you are very important as well. If the people around your sources of stress that, don't necessarily encourage you in your goals, and you keep not succeeding, might not be that big of a mystery, and you might not blame it all on self-control. You can make your environment work for you. And that's the other thing. Self-control is a limited resource, and it's exactly like a muscle. It gets exhausted. It gets bigger when you train it regularly. You can, modify the position of the movement to make it easier for you. You can modify a task or a goal, or set up your environment in a way where gravity works for you rather than against you. All these parts of the metaphor work out. So there's this study about people who are really hungry. By the way, imagine running a psych study now where it's imposed that they have to come to the lab really hungry. Would that even be ethical? Allowed by the ethics committee? Even such a minimal thing, I feel like they wouldn't.
Yeah, I don't know. And how do you even check for that?
Just, I thought of it like a blood test. Hey, come in at 12 p.m. or 11 a.m. and don't have eaten the day before or something. Or not the day before, but in the morning or something. And again, if they're doing intermittent fasting, then whoops. But I'm sure they recorded that. So they come into the lab very hungry. One group is they're all put in front of a bowl of radishes and chocolates. Okay, whatever, And also in the book it said it's really hard to eat raw radishes. I love it.
That's one of the best legumes.
It's the texture and the crunch. And one group had to eat 3 radishes and nothing else, and the other group had to eat 3 chocolates and nothing else. And after that, on a task of self-control where you had to do an impossible puzzle. So the measure could not be puzzle completion, but instead the perseverance. The people who had eaten the chocolate persevered more, and that just shows that if you had to resist, aka use self-control not to eat the chocolate at a time where you're really hungry,
a limited resource.
Yeah, you're just using up some of the well. The well of self-control can run dry, or something like that. That's a quote. Okay. Know what is influencing you. Know what you believe about your abilities. Important to believe in yourself. Embrace the potential for change. Pretty important, right? People who have fixed theories of abilities and intelligence focus on proving to the world that they're good, so they're not going to engage in hard tasks that might depict them as bad. And that makes so much sense.
That makes a lot of sense, but I mean, they don't directly say, as an adult, you can improve your IQ.
Yeah, she wants. Yeah,
but
she
they
kind of
imply
gets
that sort of like.
Yeah, she replies it.
What you can say without a problem, and I don't know why she didn't, is in specific skills in anything, in a job, in sports, and an instrument, you can improve a lot. But she focused on IQ, which is a lot due to genetics.
Yeah.
Which she was trying to like downplay, I guess.
Yeah.
And yes, all she said is true about like children that have a better environment, that are exposed to whatever, develop better IQ. Because when you're 4 years old, you don't have the IQ you have it, I don't know, fully developed, let's say 25.
Yeah.
But it's growing up and the environment not limiting you or enhancing your whatever. But after that, IQ is relatively stable. But you can focus on anything else. That's like, that doesn't take away from her point.
And in fact, decreasing, right? After like 20 or something, it just starts decreasing a little bit. And you're right. It was such a small hurdle to get over, to just say, yeah, okay, you grow up with, the potential to have 100 IQ, you're going to get it. After that, use that IQ to get better at soccer by practicing it every day. Like
all the other skills, all the things that matter, I guess. IQ matters, but it's just a way to get, let's say, a way to get things faster.
Yeah.
All the other things that actually matter, that are practical, you can do them
through practice. So yeah, again, the children. So just to make the link clear, if you think IQ and ability in that sense is static, obviously your goal will be to show to everyone that you're on the good side of the equation.
Because you can't change it.
Yeah, if you can't change it, you must be the smart one. So you're going to focus everything on displaying your smarts. And so you're going to engage in activities that are easy for you and back away from challenges, because that's going to be a display that you could fail. And if you have a dynamic vision of ability and IQ, you're going to do you can deduce what you're going to do, but also you're going to do the good stuff. Like, it's the good view to have, the good stuff. If you want to get better, think, and in fact, know, right, that you can get better at it.
Still don't know the difference between believe and know.
We read Stanford Encyclopedia. But it wasn't enough. Embrace potential for change. Set up the right environment, people, cues. So even these like success posters, she says, or actually have values because they're priming you constantly. Now, this is going to be my final thought, but I thought about this, prototypical, extremely anxious, neurotic person who reads these books and just all around them, they put these posters of success, right? Their home screen is, I don't know, an Olympic champion. And when they cut out friends from their lives because they point out real problems that they have, they say, I have to cut out toxicity, right? Like the ugliest version of this. And maybe I was primed by this as a satire to satirize this idea that you should set up your environment in a way, and kind of her, like my hate for her advocating for these success posters because they're priming you for success. Again, look, I think you have to be quite a well-adjusted person for that to work. But yeah, indeed, if your home screen on your phone is, for example, an environmental cue of the why you're doing your job, and you turn on, you see your girlfriend, and you can get through the rest of your day at the job. Like, those construction workers that have the picture of their wife in their wallet, and they just like pull it out at the break with cemented hands eating their sandwich that the wife made, and they look at the picture and they're like, I can put the 100 next roofing tiles. I know people so well. I just know people so well, really.
And jobs and people.
Use triggers to tap your unconscious. So essentially, okay, your unconscious is extremely strong. What interacts with your unconscious isn't your conscious, is what you can set up consciously, and it's your environment.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So obviously, if you're in an environment of distractions and avoiding sadness through watching short form content, you're not going to go far. Okay. I'm very satisfied, actually.
Yeah, I'm satisfied.
I didn't know we could squeeze out Harrison Bergeron for 50 minutes, but pretty good. Figured it out. Again,
2, oh, okay.
Go.
1, 2, 3, 10.
9. Okay.
Oh.
Okay, I'll go with 10.
Dude,
I'm always insecure now.
Yeah.
I'm always insecure now.
I usually go lower, but just think about it.
It felt really good.
Just think about what we just did.
I 100% agree.
Yeah.
We squeezed out 50 minutes out of a 7-page story, made it insightful and practical, I think. And this is too straightforward to mess up. So yeah, I'll go with 10 as well. So practically, the first part is kind of clear, right? Use this satire to see all the ridiculous things in your life, and to a certain extent, if they bother you just as much as they bother me, cut them out. Satires take eventual results through their exaggeration and just display them for you. So if you think you're going to be an apathetic, distracted, will-less person in 5 years because of your TV habits, stop.
That's the first part? Oh, of success.
No.
Okay.
No,
TV habits.
I devolved. I devolved.
Yeah, okay.
But what I mean by TV habits is kind of these short-form content, which is displayed in Harrison Bergeron with the sounds that are playing in the head, and it's distractions. Distractions take away your humanity.
Yeah, and then another point is, if we think about it through Neil Postman's point of view, the god of absolute equality of outcome taken to its extreme,
it's just not it.
You see its evil.
Yeah, 100%. So yeah, differences are beautiful, but not fat models. And the second part is, the entire thing is a practical recommendation.
Yeah, and she makes it explicit, and I think it's
and
well
gives
done.
examples. It's good.
Everything's good. Life is good.
Life is good. Forget about the bad things, guys. Forget it.
Watch our podcast.
So, okay.
We've been.
Thanks a lot. Yeah, we've been. Thank you very much for listening. Go to thinkinbros.com for more information. Contact us at thinkinbros@gmail.com if you want to write in. I think we still do we still read every piece of we read every piece of feedback is what we read every piece of feedback. So I was Chris this week. We'll see you next week.
I'm Alex. Bye.